Uncle Russ, jumping up and down right here on good old Group W cable in Dearborn, Michigan. And my guest today is Councilman Doug Thomas. And before you say anything, you know, and before Frank Bewick picks it up in the paper, I invited Doug to come on down here today and talk about the recent school millage, where the millage was overwhelmingly defeated by the citizens of Dearborn. Democracy in action. And I asked Doug to come on down and talk a little bit about his perceptions of the election and maybe what can be done to turn this thing around. So hang in there. He's always an interesting guest. And before any council people call up and say, he's hogging the camera, I think you ought to know that you too are welcome. If you're a council person and you have something you want to say, come on down. Just give me a call and you've got it too, okay? So don't get angry. Oh, don't forget, we're still going to have that punching match with Punchinger and Councilman Thomas for charity. That ought to be a lot of fun. Could you believe that these guys still can say hello to one another? You know, in the press, everybody's killing one another, and yet they talk with one another as people. Thank goodness for that. What's been bothering me this week? Well, I don't know, bothering. I guess I was upset about the millage being defeated, as I supported it. But we'll live. We'll live. I got a letter, and of course, that's the name of the game around here. If you have a comment that you'd like to make, all you have to do is drop a card or a letter to Russ Gibb at random, Group W Cable, Mercantile Drive in Dearborn, Michigan, and we'll address your comments. Or if you have any ideas for guests or things that you'd like to see talked about here on the Russ Gibb at Random show, let me know. After all, this is your show. We attempt to be fair. I don't know if we're always fair, but at least that's a thought that's in our mind. Got this letter the other day on foolscap paper. That's what they call the yellow paper that I use, and it said, Dear Russ, I like your show. It's entertaining. Dearborn's not such a dull place after all. I watch several times per week. My favorite shows so far have been The Eye Doctor and his cataract surgery film, Heidi and the punk rocker shows, and I'm 34 years old, and it's good to hear what these kids have to say. My only criticism is the poor quality of some of the ads that have been showing lately. The Earl Kime ad is real cute and well done, but then you have a few others that aren't quite so good. And, you know, it's good to see local advertisers, but it's too bad that the ads are so bad. Are you making them? It sounds like your voice on them. Oh, well, everybody has to take a little hard knocks every once in a while. Basically, keep up the good work on your show and keep getting good guests like you've been getting. Best wishes, and I can't make out the initial, but I think the last name is either Smythe or Smith in Dearborn. Thank you. I'd like to explain something in defense of some of the ads we're putting together here, because some of them are really well done, as the writer says. But remember that if you have an outfit that's spending $10,000 to $100,000 for an ad, like some of the national sponsors, and I think we put our ads together here anywhere from $150 to $300, maybe tops of $500, there's a little bit of difference in quality that you're going to have to deal with, even though we're trying to improve it all the time. And if you'd like to advertise on my show, all you have to do is call Group W Cable, ask for Mr. Michael Tucker, who is in charge of the advertising here, and he'll give you the rates. We hope it's working. Obviously, some people think it's working for them. Enough of this nonsense. I thank you for the letters. Let's take time now to see some of these advertisements and get on with my guest, Councilman Doug Thomas, talking about the school millage. I'll be right back.
Meet the Tylers. As soon as they sell their house,
excellent idea.
Is your home energy efficient? Parsons Heating, Cooling, and Insulation has spent 56 years becoming a complete energy savings company that aims to save you money. An Amana furnace from Parsons can make your home up to 48% more energy efficient, and that's just one of many ways that Parsons can help you. Now, take advantage of a free energy analysis and estimate and receive a free energy savings kit. Who else offers great products like Amana and personalized service? Parsons, the energy-wise people.
to these public schools,
lifetime. Our public schools, where our children are taught to take on tomorrow.
Russ Gibb, back again with my guest today, Councilman Doug Thomas. And I want to reiterate that Doug's here on my invitation. He didn't even call me. I called him, and I said I wondered if he knew of any representatives of cats that would like to talk about the millage election. And he said, well, as you know, I've been involved in that. And he said, why don't you have Mr. Holden back again? And I said, well, we've had Dave twice on it, and I'd like to get another member. And so he has consented to come on. So that ought to take some of the heat off of your critics who are saying, that Doug Thomas calls all the time and gets on that show. I had to laugh at the paper the other day, Frank's paper. He had Councilman Guido being on. I think this is your fourth time on?
Somewhere in that area.
It's either, I think it's your fourth time that you've actually been on the show, and I think Mike has been on 3. So he had Mr. Guido being on more than anybody else. Who keeps track? I mean,
Well, somebody obviously does.
the bottom line is anybody can come on anytime. Doug, let's get on to the subject at hand. What happened? What went down? What went wrong with that millage campaign? It was defeated.
Are you talking from the cat side or the administration side? The school
I want
administration
Doug Thomas. I know you're not an enemy of education.
No.
I know you're painted at that in some quarters, but I know you well enough that you're not an enemy of education, and yet you oppose the millage. Why?
Well, you know, this enemy of education, we have a syndrome starting in Dearborn right now, and it's tragic because it appears that you must take a thesis that anything an administration says, either school or city, that what they say must be 100% correct, and if anyone questions any part of their programs, that person or group is negative.
Honest men can disagree.
Honest men can disagree. I don't think there's anyone in the CAT organization, and most of the people I've talked to that have opposed the millage not because they're anti-schools or anti-administration per se, but just as a question that some of the facets of spending, some of the programs, some of the ideas coming out of the administration should certainly be questioned. And by doing that, they want an open forum for it, and they want the taxpayers and the voters to recognize what the issues are and to vote intelligently. And that's pretty much what the CAT organization was for. The name is Concerned Active Taxpayers.
Doug, you know, and I asked Mr. Holden this, and I said, how many members are on? And he told me, I think, that there were 12 active and possibly, I think he had a mailing list of a couple hundred or so. Yet, this morning at breakfast, I was talking with a person, and he said, no, there are 4 members, really, of CATS.
Oh, that's wrong.
That's wrong?
There are given the issue, whether it's a school issue or it's a city issue, there's anywhere between 10 and 20 policy-making people of CATS.
Okay.
There's a mailing list of over 400 people that have subscribed to CATS or indicated interest. And, of course, we like to use the term that the members of CATS and the numbers are told at the polls. And obviously, the other day, there were 10,500 members of CATS, okay? And let's look back to what CATS has done, if I just may allude to CATS.
Sure.
They've been involved in 5 elections, and they've had a very successful rate on the 5 elections. They're instrumental in a previous millage that was proved to be right when they opposed it from the aspect of the amount. It was defeated. Mr. Knope then came back and headed a committee to get additional funds, for example, bands and athletics, and then after getting that particular millage through, the school board found $3 million worth of surplus money that they somehow had inadvertently looked. CATS was also instrumental in getting on the charter revision amendment on the ballot so that people could vote on it, so we did have charter revision in town. CATS was instrumental in putting a 15 mil limitation on the ballot, and of course the people backed that. The last election, I think a number of the CATS candidates were elected, or CATS supported candidates were elected to the city government. And then finally, this last time, where CATS was the only organization that was actively opposed to the mill rate that the school administration was proposing.
Not the schools, but the rate. Would CAT have supported a rate?
Oh, certainly.
What
certainly.
rate would they have supported?
I think basically Mr. Holden was one of the people selected on the committee set up by Doug Lunn, the task force committee, and probably only one of that was pretty much of a minority viewpoint at that time. And the committee was close to 25 people, as I recall, 25 to 30 people. They gave a task force report. I believe the head of that was Mr. Bates-Fuel. The report came out and was issued, and it was a report not scathing of the school administration, but made recommendations that they would hope would be implemented. Many of the points were CAT's positions. They weren't accepted because of CAT's position, because they were logical positions. Declining enrollment, certain schools should be closed. Certain consolidations should be made. Now, for example, let's just look at what happened on the election then. Let's get back to what happened in the election. Last year, let's start from the point of 8.9 mills are going to be levied on the people regardless of any vote that they may or may not take, because that's a levy allowed by the state without a vote of the people. So what we're talking about are renewals right now, or the operating millage above that number. Last year, the schools levied 16.33 mills. That gave them a $4 million surplus.
Last year.
Last year, and the year we're in right now, okay? That 16.33 mills came up with a $4 million surplus. So if each mill is basically worth $2 million, operating of the schools this year could have well been in the range of 14.33 mills. Okay, now what did they do with the extra 2 mills and that $4 million surplus? They immediately bargained away $2 million of it for teacher salaries. And they ended up with a $2 million surplus for this.
Even after...
Right, for this year. So if we went back to, we already have the teacher salaries now involved in it, so that's 1 mill. That would be 15.33 mills now, effective millage. Then if you went with the 16.33, again, if they came in what they actually levied last year, it would give them a $2 million surplus.
They still have a surplus.
They would still have a surplus. Okay, these are the facts put out by the school board themselves through the task force. Now add on to that, Dr. Lund states that with the SEV drop, it would amount to a $2 million drop in revenue to the school system. That was a completely false number. Because I work on city budgets, as you well know, we're now in city budget.
You don't even work on them, you scrutinize them.
Okay, certainly. But right now, the actual drop in the millage for both city and school and county in the city of Dearborn is under 2%.
Okay, so you're in effect saying that we could have operated at the same level.
Certainly.
At what millage?
At 16.33.
And would you have supported that?
No, would not have supported 16.33.
Okay.
Now, let's go back to 16.33. If they'd come into the taxpayers and come up with 16.33, there would have still been a minute type of a surplus in that.
You have an objection to a surplus?
No, not any objection at all to a surplus. But using their own figures, if we're going to use their figures and say that every figure that they've got is correct and there's no water in it, then 16.33 would have been effective and would have been able to keep it where it was last year, what we're presently under now. But they weren't content with that. They asked for an 18 mil renewal. Not 16.33 was what they actually could operate on.
Right.
But 18 mils, so that's an increase of 1.69 or whatever it was.
How much would they end up in the kitty with?
$3 million more.
Okay,
now,
last year they ended up with $4 million.
Of which they bargained away $2 million on pay raises.
So this year, what they were really trying to do was get $3 million.
Additional.
As far as you're concerned.
Oh, certainly. But remember, at 16.33, even with the slight millage reduction due to the SEV and residential down, but at the same time when residential went down, the personal property went up 8%.
Did it?
The industrial went up about 2% or 3%, and commercial went up 1%.
You claim they were playing number games.
You're darn right. That's what they've always done, is play number games. And they think if they can confuse you enough in numbers, people won't catch on to it. So basically, what I'm stating and what the CAT's position was, is that every dollar of this mill increase, 1.7 mil increase, would not have gone for operating, but would have gone to a budget surplus. And I think you know pretty much what would happened with the budget surplus. You'd then end up with another pay raise to the teachers and the non-instructional workers again. So here, when everybody else in town, when the city workers were taking freezes, and there were layoffs, and people that worked for Ford Motor were taking freezes and layoffs, and people on fixed incomes, not only taking freezes and layoffs, basically, taking cuts in their income, and then the property tax went up. Here, they're advocating surpluses, and the surplus not for better educational programs, certainly, not for that at all. But what did they do with the surplus last year? Not for educational programs, teacher salary increases.
Okay, let me ask you a few questions
Yeah,
on that, Doug. I'm a teacher,
Certainly.
so I have a vested interest.
Certainly would.
Even though I'm on record of saying, and I said this before the millage, that if my students are suffering, if the parents of my students are suffering and being expected to take cuts and so forth and so on, I don't think that I would have been averse to a freeze also. That's my personal point. That is not the point of view of my union. My union, myself, disagree on some things, but that's healthy.
Yes.
Hopefully it's healthy.
Very healthy.
However, when I talk to my fellow teachers about things like this, they'll say, but wait, Russ, you know, inflation was galloping ahead until Reagan took over here, and it's down this week, I think 18% over 3 or 4 years.
1980, right.
And that's an incredible amount, and that's a credit to President Reagan as far as I'm concerned. But during the times that inflation was rampant, we were not on a COLA, such as a UAW worker, whereby whatever the cost of index would go up, their pay would go on. We were actually, while inflation was increasing at 10 or 15 a year, we were maybe only going up 6 or 5. So we really were behind compared to, you know, other workers. And we've decided we want a union, and obviously that's the term is the correct term. We want to be treated like workers. How do you address that?
Well, I think you're taking, again, with the assumption that the administration, both city and school, likes to take, that whatever figure they have is a normal figure. For example, Dr. Lund stated, and in the task force report, that the average teacher in the system makes $32,000 a year. Now, you add fringes on top of that, or roughly another 30% more of it, you're up to a teacher costs you $40,000 a year. The average person, wage earner in the city of Dearborn, makes nowhere near that on average. So I don't go from the assumption that that the teacher is an underpaid, overworked individual. At the same token, I would rather see teachers make high salaries, because I believe in the educational process. The future of the country, the future of the world is in education. It is for all of us. And the aspect, I would much rather see them make money than some other jobs that may not take the same type of training. But in the meantime, I think it's bad for a teacher right at this stage of the game, or a union, to take a position of crying poor mouth. When we're in an economic situation right now, a state of flux and a state of transition with people that are on a great amount of fixed incomes. The city of Dearborn, in our makeup of population right now, is not an increasing salary area. We have close to 60% of our population over 52, 54 years of age. So we're not in an area of people that live in Dearborn like we were 10 and 15 years ago, where we're in middle management type people with increasing salary levels. We're now in a pretty staid conservative area. And I think that's what Katz was addressing. They don't want to break the school system. I don't believe anybody that's a free-thinking mind wants to break the Dearborn school system or Dearborn city government. What they want to do is see a cap on them, a lid on them, and make them live within a budget also.
Just as some people have to.
Just like we all have to. I mean,
course,
there's nothing illogical about it. It's a sensible approach to the government. One that I
Well,
think both of you
unfortunately,
and I agree on.
Well, yes, I think we
Yes.
do. Unfortunately, our political parties and our governments in all areas, state, national, have been living way beyond their means, and it's time to pull back. Except I would add this. What about the idea that all senior citizens are, you know, on fixed incomes and
Not
nothing
all of
ever
them are.
changed?
Certainly
We
not
have a lot of our senior citizens are well taken care of.
Well, we hope so. We'd like to, because that's our only salvation in Dearborn. If they weren't very well taken care of or couldn't pay their bills within some reason,
Then we
with
really be in
Dearborn's figures of 60% over 55 years of age, we would be in a devil of a lot of trouble.
Now, there are obviously some of our seniors are hurting. I mean, they're really hurting. There's no
Certain
question about that.
percentage, right.
But I think the overwhelming majority of them, according to the figures and things that are coming out now, are doing fairly well. They're doing fairly well in a time that's been tough for everybody. What would you support on the next time out? They're going to have another election, I'm sure, don't you think?
I understand the reports we're getting from the administration, if you can believe this, and it's hard to believe.
This is
that
not
we
official
go
yet,
into it,
right?
It's not official, but it came from a very high respected source in the school administration, that they're going to come back with an 18 male figure again. And
That's
that
what
would,
I've heard, too, by
right,
the way.
that would not only be tragic, it would be insulting. Now, that means that their budget has no water in it at all, and that is not correct. Katz and other people of their own personage, such as their own task force, says there's water in that budget, that there should be an 18% cut within a 3-year period. in their budgets. It's that much over. Now, that means that even when the school administration handpicks a number of those people to be on that task force, and when a task force of pretty much handpicked, favorable to the school administration, certainly favorable to education, comes up with that type of a report, and the administration doesn't listen to it, there's one or two things are wrong. Either the administration is arrogant, or secondly, the administration doesn't put their ear to the ground and know what's going on. And if either case, the people told them last Thursday what's going on and what they want. They owe something to these people that pay the bills. We not only owe something in this town, the school people, they owe it to the senior citizens who are on fixed incomes, who want to do their duty by continuing to have good education, but want to have it in a reasonable, sensible level. They also owe it to the parochial people that not only pay the school taxes of the city of Dearborn, and most do it gladly, but also pay taxes to their own school system for reasons they want to send a child to that system. We have and should be keeping faith with those people also. I think it's a pure, simple thing of being keeping faith with people. Katz has advocated a 12 mil renewal, which would be an effective cut in the school system of $8 million out of a $78 million budget. That is
Is that what you're going to go out for
Certainly.
if they ever come and ask Doug Thomas?
certainly.
You'll say what, 13?
12?
12.
12 to 13, depending upon that SEV factor.
Now, if things don't work out the way you've been saying, can I get a loan from you?
Certainly.
Doug
I don't think you'd be hurt by it at all, Russ.
Doug Thomas, thank you for coming on the show today at my request. And next week, hopefully, we'll have a representative of the public schools, and we'll know by that time what they're actually going to come out on a new millage. I'm sure they're going to ask for another one. Doug Thomas, thank you again.
My pleasure.
Russ Gibb, I'll be back right after these announcements.
Meet the Tylers. As soon as they sell their house, a new life begins for them. Trouble is, they didn't list their house with Earl Keim Realty, so it's taking just a little longer than they hoped to get it sold. We could have helped the Tylers, but the Tylers like doing things the hard way. Earl Keim Realty makes selling houses easy. We're not saying they'll ever sell without us. It's only a question of when. Call Earl Keim Realty.
Campbell's Paint and Wallpaper has been providing quality decorating products and ideas since 1948. Come into Campbell's at decorating time and make your task into pleasure. Campbell's has Dearborn's nicest selection of wall covering, and most papers are available within 48 hours. Campbell's has a complete line of quality paints available in oil and latex and can recommend the right product to make the job easier. Campbell's also does custom picture framing. Experienced framers do all the work on the premises. Stop into Campbell's today, and remember, Campbell's paints always match.
Stress is affecting everyone today. Headaches, neck aches, and lower back pains are easily treatable with chiropractic care. At America's Chiropractic Family Care Clinic in Dearborn, you get the best in chiropractic treatment. Established in 1947, America's has been helping sick people get well in Dearborn and the surrounding area with incredible success. Good health is the highest priority, and America's now accepts insurance plans to accommodate all your needs. Call for more information. America's can help you achieve better health.
I see you're worried. I got you 4 down.
Not the golf.
Not the golf.
I wish I knew what to do about retirement. I need help.
Do what I did, Mike. Talk to IDS.
IDS?
My IDS representative and you can set up a financial plan to help you reach all of your goals, including retirement.
An IDS financial plan. Excellent idea.
Is your home energy efficient? Parsons Heating, Cooling, and Insulation has spent 56 years becoming a complete energy savings company that aims to save you money. An Amana furnace from Parsons can make your home up to 48% more energy efficient, and that's just one of many ways that Parsons can help you. Now, take advantage of a free energy analysis and estimate and receive a free energy savings kit. Who else offers great products like Amana and personalized service? Parsons, the energy-wise people.
To these public school students in Philadelphia, math and science are not abstract subjects, but part of their very real world. They've built a flight deck and communication system precisely following NASA specifications.
3, 2, 1.
This space shuttle launch caps a year's exacting work and fuels ambition to last a lifetime. Our public schools, where our children are taught to take on tomorrow.
Councilman Doug Thomas talking about the millage campaign. Always an interesting guest. By the way, I got to remind you that Guys and Dolls, or the play, is going to be performed this coming Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at Dearborn High. And I believe that's at 8 o'clock. And we invite you to come on down. I think you'll be amazed at what these young people can do when they put on a musical with a band and actors and actresses. A lot of fun. Dearborn High this coming Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Guys and Dolls. Check it out, will you? Hey, for those of you that took time to view the show, I'd like to say thank you. For those of you that took time to drop me a card or a letter, I'd like to say thank you. But most of all, I'd like to thank you for just being you. Russ Gibb, at random.